that this morning we're going to do something a little bit different. Mother's Day is always a scary sermon for a pastor to preach. Because whenever it comes to me giving instructions to women, there just aren't a whole lot of good things that I can say. I mean, even if I give good advice, there's times it just doesn't come out right. I was even thinking about this morning how I could start this off, and I was thinking I could just come up here and say, I love the beautiful moms at Sonrise Church, and I was thinking, that could even get mistaken. And so this morning, instead of me getting up here and giving a sermon, we're going to do something a little bit different. And I'm going to bring a couple of mothers up here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to interview these moms on how they are ministering to their families and how they are leading their families to follow Jesus. And so the first one, I try not to play favorites in the church, but I just can't help it sometimes. And in our church, this is my favorite mom. I got to be honest with you. I think she's beautiful. I think she has a great spirit. Just so many things she does well. And this is my wife, Devin. If you go ahead and come on up here. Oh, we changed it up? I'm using this one now? Okay. You got that, Trey? Okay. All right. Good deal. Here you go, Devin. All right. You need to use the microphone. Okay. So we'll start this off with an easy question.
Okay.
What do you think about the father of your children?
I did the best I could, people. I did the best I could. You're great.
I agree you did the best you could. There's nothing you could have done better.
I know. Honestly, fathers, though, yesterday, instead of going out and giving me a tchotchke gift, he just gave me money and said, go be by yourself. And I said, thank you. That's exactly what I wanted.
I know. I'm learning that about Mother's Day. Like, it's a strange holiday because it's a day that we celebrate moms and their love for children. But I've learned on Mother's Day what a lot of moms want.
Well, me.
Well, this mother wants is to be away from the children.
I can't speak for all mothers.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, I brought Devin up here because she's a young mom. We have, tell them about your children.
I have Sophia Hazel. She's 4 years old, and Samantha Lynn is 2 years old.
Very good. So you have young children.
I do.
So, but before you had kids, what did you do to prepare yourself?
Well, we went through about a year and a half of trying to have kids, and it was a long journey. But once I found out I was pregnant, it's kind of like this scary, joyful moment. But I bought a Bible. It's called The Power of a Praying Woman. But not just because of that, but because I wanted to be a good, godly mom for my kids. I didn't really know what that looked like. My mom's really good, but she didn't raise us in the church. And so we did that. And then Michael and I got into a Bible study at our church. And they had us go through Let the Children Come Along the Infant Way. And as Jamie and others can attest, whenever there's new moms, I tell them about this book because it tells you how to raise a kid in a godly manner. And I just didn't know what to do, so we just bought a bunch of books and prayed a lot. I had to learn how to do a diaper from the nurse in the delivery room or whatever it was.
I know. I remember that. That was one of the worst moments of our life whenever the nurse said she wouldn't change any more diapers for us.
It was scary.
And we looked at each other and said, we don't know what we're doing.
It was 3 o'clock in the morning on the second day of our child's birth, and she said, no more. You're figuring it out. And we're like, okay.
Very good. So, young children, they're a little strange sometimes. How do you find ways to share with them about Jesus?
I think the most important thing is just being an example. As I have watched other godly mothers, like when they interrupt me in the morning, I try to get up before them. That's not always easy. My kids like to wake up at 5:15, 5:30. So I try to wake up before them, and I'm reading my Bible. And if they ask me what I'm doing, I say I'm talking to Jesus, which they're like, where is he? So there's some interesting, but we don't hide anything from them. I know recently we watched the Bible series on the History Channel, and even Mary was like, "Are you really letting Sophie watch this?" And I said, there's other things on TV that are even worse, more, but we obviously don't let them watch gruesome TV, but, I think it brought to life that Jesus died and he rose again. We try not to pull any punches when it comes to our kids and knowing who Jesus is. Maybe they won't understand it right now, but at least they know that who Jesus is. We try to teach them Jesus songs, and we're thankful and grateful for Melissa and the others that work back there with our kids, for Anna being a godly woman at daycare, and just try to keep godly people around them.
Yeah, that was one question I was going to ask is what role have you seen the church play in the development of your children and their understanding of the Bible and of Jesus?
Yeah, Melissa does a great job. She actually even volunteers Sunday nights so that we can go to Bible study, and she, talks to them. And Anna does a great job with our girls at her daycare. She is constantly teaching them new things that I didn't even know my kids could learn. It's pretty amazing, actually. And I just love all the songs. Like, even Miss Teresa is probably like Sophia's favorite person because she has all these crazy songs and she sings them all the time. And just the way that our church allows kids to learn. They don't just go back there and sit and eat cookies. Like, they honestly learn things, and that's pretty amazing. I work with high schoolers, so I can't fathom teaching a little kid anything, but it's pretty amazing. It's pretty awesome.
And that was another question I was going to ask is, I know some of our moms are stay-at-home moms and some of our moms have to work. Your hours with your children sometimes are few.
True.
How, in that short amount of time, what blessings do you find in that, and what things do you find difficult as being a working mom?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I hear of my stay-at-home friends, and they get the honor of raising their kids day in, day out. I really don't think I'm gifted for that. I don't. I feel blessed that I get to go and work with other people's kids, and I feel like I'm a mom to 150 kids as it is. At school, I'm a school mom, and then at home, I just try to spend as much time with them as possible. I don't know what to say, honey. I don't know.
No, that's good.
Okay. That's good.
That's
try
good.
To let them in.
There are no right answers, just your answers. That's good.
In school, children, there are right answers, though. Just saying.
I've always enjoyed philosophy for that reason. You weren't raised, you mentioned this earlier, but you weren't raised in a Christian home.
Right. My parents...
Don't. What did you want to be different about you raising your children than about the way that you were raised?
Let me first say my parents are amazing. They just weren't following the Lord at that time. It wasn't their priority. What I wanted is not to have the question. Like, I didn't even know what church was or why people did it. And when I became a Christian in high school, I actually volunteered in the little kids department because they were learning things that I didn't know. I constantly got Moses and Noah switched, and those are completely different. But I didn't know. And so what I've tried to do is, as I've gone along my journey as a parent, I'm trying to get around people like Mary Reed and other mothers that have raised their kids, they don't know Dawn, but anyway, the lady who led us through this, good, wise women that have raised their kids in the Lord, because as much as I love my mom and my parents are in the church now, and I'm thankful and I'm praising Jesus for that, they didn't raise me that way. And so I know that you and I both, Michael didn't have a fatherly influence when he was growing up either, and so we're both constantly striving to find ways to raise our kids properly.
Mm-hmm. And I think as a mom, as any parent, I think that is both a noble and a difficult step to want to take, is to be a parent that says, I'm going to raise my children differently than I was raised. I'm going to break a cycle potentially, and that is a hard thing to step out on. I know some of the people in our church right now are making this step, and it's hard because sometimes you don't get the benefit of the influence of other people encouraging you in your life, and sometimes they may encourage you to do something else. But you did have good parents. What were some things that your mom did for you growing up that you want to pass on to your children?
My mom also worked. She was a high school teacher and counselor as well. But what I loved about her is, I don't really remember when I was young, but I remember when I was older, she took time to just have time with me. And right now we work really hard to make sure that Michael has daddy-daughter dates, and individually, because we do have 2 kids, but to individually spend time with them. My brother was 7 years older, so it's not like we had a choice or anything. But my mom would just take me to Sonic, take me to go. I would sit next to her as she got her nails done, and we would talk. She would, make lunch or dinner just for me, and sit with me as I don't know, just that one-on-one time. That's what I really miss about her. I want to see my mom. 28 days.
I see you reading your Bible a lot. You're a woman who trusts in her
Really?
Bible.
Are you awake at 5:15? I don't think so. I read my Bible. You don't see me reading my Bible. Let's correct that. Don't lie in church, Pastor Cooper. Come on.
As a woman who reads her Bible.
Yes.
What scriptures have impacted you as a mother, or biblical characters or things from the Bible that have impacted you?
Galatians 5, I'm going to botch it, 23? Dang it. I can never remember the address. Anyways, the fruit of the Spirit.
If you would read your Bible besides being.
Okay. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. And mothers, we need all of that every day. All of it every day. And so I'm learning more and more, like, as the kids get old. I thought it was going to be difficult when they were little. Now I'm realizing as they get older, it becomes more difficult. What's up with that? But that's not okay. Anyway, so, as Sophia's getting older, she's starting to be a little bit more bossy, like her mother, and learning to reject my human of let's just spank her and get it over with, because my parents, I believe in spanking. Sorry, I just do. I think it's good. But I think that there's also a time where we talk to our kids and we say, Mommy doesn't like that, and here's why. And explaining why I don't like it, and explaining, having the wherewithal to say, okay, let's explain why we don't do this, and just trying to reject what I know as a parent naturally to fill it in with what I think God wants me to do. That's really hard because I didn't have that example, and but I'm trying.
Yeah, I think you're an excellent mom. In your phone, do you have it on you? She actually has the fruits of the Spirit on the back of her phone. Because if you know my wife, she's always around her phone, but she has the fruits of the Spirit on the back of her phone. So that way she can look at them regularly and she can ask herself, am I displaying the fruits of the Spirit?
Self-control. That's a tough one.
It is tough. One more question. I'll make this one an easy one.
Good.
What are some things that you would like to see the father of your children doing better? As in helping you being a godly mother.
Honestly, I'm not just saying this because he's your pastor or I'm up here. Honestly, for someone who didn't have a father, whose father left him and abandoned him, whatever, all that good stuff, Michael's actually really good at dealing with our girls, and he has something called unconditional love. I didn't know that really exists. I thought it was just in the Bible, but it actually exists. And he has it for me, and sometimes it creeps me out. It does. It's too much. Because I'm like, ooh, you smell bad. I don't want to kiss you right now. That's pretty gross. But with me, I can be all sweaty, and he's like, come here, baby. But Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm at church. I forgot. But what I love about him is that he's shown me unconditional love, like to me, and so I can show it to my girls. I didn't know how to have unconditional love, to be there for someone day in, day out, no matter how they're acting, regardless of their attitude, to still to love them. So there you go, babe.
Thank you.
Yep.
I appreciate that. And I think that's true for all men as far as helping the wives serve their children. I think it's the aspect. Good thing one of the fruits of the Spirit is not controlling your family. I have had to learn there's a difference between leading your family and controlling your family. And I can lead, but I'm not in control. But honestly, she was talking about love, and I think that unconditional, that constant, letting your wife know that you love her and that you have her back and that you support her in all things. I know our children are very little right now, and it'll become more complicated as our kids get older. But even now, whenever Sophie's got to the point to where she'll ask Mommy, can I have ice cream? And then she'll start coming to me and say, Daddy, can I have ice cream? And I've got to the point where I ask, have you already asked your mom? And she'll say, yes. And then I'll say, Devin, what did you say? So that way I can make sure to back her up, and that's an easy way to show her that I love her. Now we have another mom to come up here. We had a young mother come up here, but I want to have a mom come up here that's been a mother through various stages. And so I've asked Wanda Robbins if she would come up here. Go and call on up here, Wanda Robbins. Now, Wanda Robbins says before she comes up here, she wanted me to make sure that I told you that she is a wimp. And she does not want to be up here this morning, but she wasn't going to let the devil win. But she says she has a tendency to cry sometimes, so she may have to cry, and that's okay. But 5 minutes. We have as much time to go through everything that you need to talk about. All right? You need to use the microphone, too, so that way we can make sure we record it so your children can hear it. This will be good.
I am not a speaker before people, I can tell you now. I can talk all day by myself out someplace, but not in front of people.
You're going to have to hold the microphone up.
Okay.
Or else it's okay. You guys can hear? Okay, good. All right. Now, we'll start off with a difficult question to start off. Can you please tell us the names of all of your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren while making sure to keep them all in the right family groupings?
Yes, I can.
And by age.
No, I don't know about age. Well, we have 3 daughters. Teresa's our oldest, and she is 57. And
you don't have to give their ages because your daughters may not appreciate that.
Okay, well, they don't care. And Sheila is our middle daughter, and then Carolyn is our youngest daughter. And our oldest daughter has 3 children. Ryan is the oldest, and then there's Rob and Kimberly. And there's 12 great-grandchildren through them. There's Allison and Tyler and Clara and Cameron is our oldest daughter's grandchildren, the oldest son's there's 12 of them altogether there. And then Rob, our second grandson, he has a stepdaughter that he married a lady that had a little girl. She's Gracie. And then he and his wife have Hannah. And then there is Teresa's youngest daughter is Kimberly, and she has 4 little boys. The oldest one, I cannot remember his name, but then there's Cole, and there is Jax, and there is Well, I know their names, but I just can't come up with
It's
it
okay.
now. And then Sheila, our middle daughter, has one little granddaughter, and her name is Mackenzie. She's 8 months old, so she's our 13th. So, anyway.
That's exciting.
And then Carolyn has Carissa, and then she has the twins, Amber and Ashley, and then Sheila she had 3 children. Her little girl died at a month old. Her name was Bethany. There I am.
You're okay.
And then there is Justin, and there's Kyle.
Okay.
So that's
Great.
them.
One thing that really impressed me when I was talking with you the other day is, especially after you got done listing off all those grandchildren. Which, by the way, that's impressive. I have 2 children, and I can't keep their names straight sometimes. So that really is impressive. But I asked you how you pray for your family. And how did you answer that?
Every day.
But how do you pray for them every day?
Well, I pray that God will protect them, watch over them, and keep them in His will every day. And those that are not saved, I pray for salvation.
But what I found amazing that she said that she prays for all the kids, all of her kids, all of her grandkids, and all of her great-grandkids.
I do.
Every single day, which means that you spend a lot of time in prayer. And
I get up at about 5:30, and I take my time to do my devotion, and I pray for my family, my church, my country. So
I know that that's one of the greatest blessings that many of us in here have, and as I know I've talked to several in here, that part of the reason they believe that they're still here and that they are serving Jesus is because they've had a grandmother who prayed for them. And I think that's one of the greatest things that you can do for your kids and for your grandkids.
And I can say that all of my children are very dedicated, and they do take their families to church. And all of my great-grandchildren, all my grandchildren are Christians, and all of my great-grandchildren that are old enough to know or have all been saved.
That's what we call legacy.
Thank you.
That's something that you started, that you and Joe started, that they've all followed in, and that's beautiful.
Yeah.
One thing I hear a lot of mothers of adult children talk about a lot or struggle with is how do you minister or give advice to adult children?
Yeah.
Or be involved in their life as adult children. I know that can be difficult sometimes.
Well, that's a hard one sometimes too, because once they get married and they get their families, I think they know it all, and they don't they don't need advice.
My 4-year-old knows it all.
But my girls and even my son-in-laws, and I've had my grandchildren to come to me and ask me things. Grandma, how do you do this? Well, Grandma, how did you do that? Or, Mom, what do I do? And I give advice when they ask. But they know that I'm there. And they know that if they do need to talk to me, they know that they can come and talk to me. And they do come to me whenever they feel like they need to. And also my grandchildren do. Especially the 2 Sheilas and Carolyns, especially their children, always come to me. They call me on the phone, or they'll come to the house and want to know how you do this, Grandma. What do you do? And I say, well, first off, you need to pray about it, and secondly, this is what I would do. Mm-hmm. And
now here's the real secret that she's not telling you. Is anytime one of her granddaughters calls her up, they typically call right around lunchtime. And this is the truth. And if Joe and Wanda are out to lunch, they tell them where they're eating out. And if they're not out to lunch, Wanda will take an order on the phone, and then they come home and eat it.
That's right.
I've seen this happen numerous times, and I
Yes,
think
you
that
have.
I think that's wonderful. But I have to ask you a hard question. What do you do whenever you see a child that is not doing what's right maybe in the eyes of the Lord? Do you get involved? Do you pray for them? Do you... I don't know. I don't have a clue how you would do this. I mean, it has to be painful for you whenever you see that happening. A child or a grandchild. How do you go about that?
Well, first off, I really pray about the situation. I pray that God will give me the opportunity that I can have a chance to talk to him. And God's been faithful, and he has been able to help me to do that. Mm-hmm. So I do eventually get around and talk to him. Or I say, I tell him, I know that Amber's getting married here pretty quick, and there's been several things that she's asked me and she's wanted me to do, and I have done that. And I've, given her a little advice that she didn't ask for. But I did give her a little advice. But I do eventually get around to asking them or talking to them about the situation. And I know just recently with Sheila's son, he was raised in a Christian home, and he's a Christian. And recently they had a baby, and he bought a new camping trailer. And he said, he wanted to spend some time camping and doing this. And I told him, I just spoke right up and I said, first off, your obligation is to get that baby in church. That baby needs to be in church, and he needs to know the Lord. Oh, well, Grandma, we're going to do that too. And I said, but just don't let that be your priority. That baby needs to be in church. So,
what role has church played in your life as you raised your kids and seen your grandkids raised? And what impact have you seen church make upon your family versus maybe a family that doesn't go to church?
Yeah, well, the church has been 100% our priority. Raising our kids, we went to church. If they were not sick, they went to church. When they dated boys, if those boys didn't go to church, they didn't get a date with that boy till that boy showed up in church. And he had to be there Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday night. If there was youth activities, they had to be there, or they didn't go on a date with them. And those boys were there. They came. And actually, all three of our girls dated non-believers, and when they started dating. And those boys didn't get a date with those girls unless they were there. Every time the church doors was open and we were there, those boys were there too. And all three of our daughters won their husbands to the Lord.
Mm-hmm. So
before they were married.
Can we get a T-shirt made up that says, if you're not here Sunday, don't come and knock on Friday?
Well,
I think that's good.
But those boys have come to Joe and I many times and told us how they appreciated what we did because they know the Lord for that.
On that same note, Joe, you married a heathen.
I married a heathen.
Whenever you married Joe. Joe was not a Christian whenever you got married.
No, we weren't. He wasn't.
You didn't raise kids. He was a Christian before you guys had kids, right?
Our oldest daughter was 9 months old when Joe accepted the Lord, and he was baptized on her first birthday.
Okay, so I know we have several moms here today who are raising their kids, but the father of the baby or their husband is not a Christian. What advice would you have for those mothers?
Well, you stay faithful. If that husband or the wife is not a Christian, you stay faithful. Joe would get up lots of times on Sunday mornings and always wanted to. He never ever deprived me of going. He never said, I don't want you to go or anything, because he knew I was a Christian before he married me. And but don't be unequally yoked, young folks. Please be sure that your partner is saved before you ever marry him, because 9 times out of 10 that don't happen. It just so happened God really blessed me. But I just got up and went to church every Sunday, and he would say some Sundays, well, I thought we'd do this or I thought we'd do that. And a time or two I'd give in, and then I realized I've got a 9-month-old little girl, or a newborn baby, because I took her to church from the beginning, that I've got a newborn baby, and I want her in church. I was not raised in a Christian home. And so my parents, later years, became very dedicated, but when I was growing up, I was not in a Christian home. And I wanted that for my family. And I just made my mind up that I was going. And we pulled some of the members of the church kind of pulled a few little things. We had one young man in our church that was going to be a minister, and Joe loved the guitar, and he played, and Kenneth played, and everything. So I'd say, Kenneth, you got to come over and play the guitar with Joe. We got to, And so Kenneth would come over, or some of the members of the church that played the guitars and stuff would come over, and we'd sing, play the guitars, and he would, and Joe enjoyed that. And so when Kenneth surrendered to the ministry, he told Joe he was going to preach this Sunday morning, and he wanted Joe to hear him preach. And Joe said, oh, yeah, the church will fall down. You've heard all this kind of stuff and all that. And but Kenneth convinced him to stay that day, and he did, and that was the day he was saved, the day that Kenneth preached. But wives, stay faithful, and just keep praying and keep praying. And you live the life, and you direct your children in a way, even though he's not going or doing, you still direct those children. You get them to church on Sunday morning. You get them in a Sunday school class, and you just keep praying. And you go to a church that's a praying church that can pray for that partner. He will be saved, or she.
Your family. It sounds like from a lot of people listening that it would sound like your family is absolutely perfect.
They're not perfect, I can tell you.
But I know that your family is going through somewhat of a crisis right now with one of your grandchildren. What's your role whenever your family is in a crisis situation? You can tell me just a little bit about that and how you're involved.
You mean with Carissa?
With Carissa.
Yeah. Well, our granddaughter, and all of you know because you've been praying, our oldest daughter has battled cancer for the last, going on 4 years now. She's had her third of it returning. She's a newly married, and the doctors have told her that they can knock out what she's got, but it's going to come right back someplace else. And so we've really been struggling with that. But we just pray. God knows what's in store for her. And she is a Christian. And I know where she'll be if the Lord sees fit to take her. But we spend as much time with her as we can, and we just have all the joy, and we just have fun together. We're going to be together today, but it's been hard because of all of this. Her husband has kind kind of turned against God right now, but we keep praying. I pray every day for him that God's going to touch him, because I know he's grieving and he's hurting. But he's a very faithful and wonderful husband to her. She got word like Thursday, I think it was, that the cancer has dropped to a cancer point of 285. It's called cancer. I can't remember what they call it now, but anyway, it's lowered, and the doctors were amazed. They were just so excited. And we know why.
Right.
We know why that this has happened, because we've got a praying church. And praying people that we know all over the whole United States is praying for her. And she knows that people are praying, and she's always saying, thank them, Grandma. And I do. But the doctors were amazed. And they said, well, what we're trying to do now, there's a group of us doctors that are getting together, and we're going to come up with a new method of treatment for you. But we're praying for healing.
That's right.
And I know God is a healer, because we read in his word all the time where he's healing. And but she was really thrilled. And my daughter had cancer too, her mother. And we had a praying church then, Trinity, and that prayed really hard, and hers has never returned. So I know God can do this. I know he can. And that's what we're praying for, that miracle.
That's right. The thing I've heard you saying that I think is so powerful, that I hope everybody in here hears, is that sometimes the greatest things that you can do as especially a mom to adult children, even grandchildren, is to pray. And to be that constant source of prayer. And I know you are, and you're a wonderful example to so many on what that looks like.
Well, that's my source. I cannot go through a day without my Lord. I cannot go through a day without talking to him many, many times. Mm-hmm. And so and I'm not a perfect person. I mean,
we never did say you were a perfect person.
I mean, there's times that, I get pretty disturbed, and I get pretty upset, and I, go through things too, just like everybody else does. But I know where my source is.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you for giving us 20 minutes of your time.
Thank you.
We appreciate you, and
I love all of you.
we appreciate you, and we love you. And on this Mother's Day, I wanted to have these women come up here because I think it's good for other women to hear from other women. And one thing that is important about a church is I love that you come and you hear me preach like that. That's great. Like, you guys probably need to hear my preaching a lot. But one of the great sources of a church is that it just isn't one person teaching a group of people, but there's also tremendous value in a church as a whole teaching each other. And I wanted you to hear from other people besides just me this morning on what it looks like for a mom to follow God. And I know for many of you, and Wanda is one, I know that while Mother's Day is a happy day, it's a day of celebrating. It's a day of celebrating moms. It's a day of remembering our moms and telling them how much we love them. I know for some of you, this is going to be the first Mother's Day that you're going to spend without your mom with you. And I know for Wanda, she lost her mom this past year. I know for some of you this is true, and for some of you it's difficult seeing all the babies up here because you've been trying to have a baby for a period of time and it hasn't happened, or there have been miscarriages or something else that has made it difficult. And through all of that, the greatest resource we have is, number one, Jesus Christ. But secondly, it's a church family that we come together with. Because something I've learned as a pastor, as we come together as a church family, is if you're mourning, there's somebody else you can rejoice with. And if you're rejoicing and you're strong, then there's somebody else that you can mourn with. And we come together as a church family. We all have good days and we all have bad days, and we have good years and we have bad years. And for some of you, you're rejoicing because you're spending this Mother's Day with the first time with a new child. It's amazing. And for some of you, this is difficult because this is your first Mother's Day without your mother. And as a pastor, I want to tell you, all the mothers in here, I love you. I have a tremendous amount of respect for you. I have a tremendous amount of respect for you because you made a commitment this morning on a day whenever you could do whatever you want to do. Because I think it says that in the Constitution somewhere. On Mother's Day, mothers get to do whatever they want to do. At least my mom told me that. And what you chose to do was to bring your family to church. And I think that says a tremendous amount, and it'll speak volumes to your children in later years.